Just going to ask everybody to go on mute if they're not speaking.
How do you go on mute?
Okay, hold
On the
on. I
bottom
can do it for you.
Left-hand corner, I see it says mute.
Whoa. Oh, there, you got it.
Wait, what
Thanks,
happened?
Maura.
Something just happened to my screen.
Yeah, that Maura's sharing her
Yeah, I don't want
email, but Maura, I'll go ahead and share it in the chat. I just
Thank you.
trying to track it down. Thank you for that.
I can type it right now, Lisa.
Can I go back to where I was?
Maura has to stop unsharing.
Okay.
Stop sharing.
And Donna, if you just click on the microphone in the bottom left, it will mute you.
I thought I did mute. I'm talking now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. good.
And I hit.
Okay, I think we're all here and it's 6:31, so let's just get started. So, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is staying safe. We are conducting our first entirely remote meeting of the Board of Trustee. This is a public work session for the 2020 to 2021 budget. We invite residents to observe the meeting, but as this is not a public hearing, we do not invite resident participation. This is an opportunity for residents to observe the budget presentations of each department chair and the explanations for their budget requests. The draft budget that results from these requests will then be posted online. We will be conducting our budget hearings on April 7th and April 21 at 6:30. We will invite residents to submit their comments by email, and they will also have the opportunity to participate in the Zoom meeting or watch the proceedings live streamed on our YouTube channel. Residents will also be able to call in to listen to the meeting if they do not have access to the internet. The meeting will be recorded and the video posted online. The instructions for participation in the public hearing will be included in the agenda. I just want everyone to be also aware that we have taken into consideration the terrible events, which will undoubtedly cause us to have less income and more expenses. So I will leave it to Charlene and to Jeff to explain what that means for us, and the department's heads will take that into consideration. So Charlene, I'll turn it over to you now. You're muted. Charlene, you're muted. Charlene, you're on mute. Hey. Charlene, you're still on mute.
I got all.
The space bar only temporarily does it.
There's a button on the,
Charlene, let me do it. There.
Okay, good. On behalf of the mayor and the Board of Trustees and myself, I just want to thank all administration, staff, everyone for the work they've been putting in. I know it's really under very difficult circumstances, but you've worked it out, and now we have our budget work session. This budget was excellent. It is no longer excellent. We don't know what it is. At this point in time, we did reduce it, as the mayor said. We don't know if it's enough. What we do know is that we are committed to only spending what we need, emergency basis, emergency for the COVID-19. We will not be buying any capital expenses. There will be no capital monies that we are going to expend. In addition, whatever is spent will be reviewed by Jeff and myself, and with the mayor and whoever else on the board that he designates, so that we can ensure that we are as careful as possible in the money spent. We have a good budget. Hopefully, this will not be long-lasting. Trustee Taylor suggested that the first 6 months, we spend nothing in capital. That is a very good suggestion, and that is exactly what we will do. And then we have to reevaluate it. So I suggest that all the department heads just go through it as in a regular basis as to what it should have been or would be or may be, because at this point, this is an aspirational budget and not any kind of reality that we can tell. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Jeff for the real substantive aspect of it. He's in Big Sur now.
Yes, I am. First of all, I want to thank Charlene and all the department heads for all their hard work on this budget. Kind of reiterating what Charlene was saying, it's a conservative budget that maintains all services that we've provided in previous budgets. However, we realize that COVID-19 could significantly affect our revenue side of the budget, as some of the revenues are affected by economic events. All of our expenditures that are not regular contractual or emergencies related to COVID-19 will be reviewed by budget director, treasurer, in conjunction with the mayor, and like Charlene said, whoever he appoints. So we have proposed an operating budget of $19,815,867. This is an this is an increase over last year of about $652,000. There have been some major changes, including the creation of a sewer fund, which allowed us to transfer about $170,000 of expenses out of the operating budget. We are proposing a tax levy of $14,150,625, which is $215,171 more than last year. Let's see, the taxpayers have benefited with this budget from the increased sales tax proceeds, which has allowed us at this point to keep the levy as low as it is. The tax rate per thousand of assessed value is decreasing by 1.81% to $6.78 per thousand. And again, we have adjusted estimates down, anticipating the effects of COVID-19 on the economy. With that, turn it over to
Jeff, can you just explain a little bit? You have here the total taxable assessments. Can you explain what that means?
total taxable assessed value? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it says on your sheet here, total taxable assessment.
Hold on a second. Wait, so you're looking at my executive summary?
Yeah.
So the total taxable assessments is the total value that the assessor has placed on all the properties within the village. Then these are the taxable properties. It does leave out the not-profits.
And can you just explain, the higher that number goes, the better it is for us? And if so, how?
Correct. Typically, the higher than that number goes, generally there's an offset and a reduction in the tax rate per thousand. So this did go up about 75 million this year. And, you know, with all the changes, the tax rate is dropping, you know, pretty significantly to $6.78 from $6.92 per thousand.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
So we'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Making sure I was unmuted. Okay, so the library, our budget this year reflects a lot of work that the board did working on putting together our strategic plan, which we have finalized, and we are hoping to present to you all when time allows for an actual presentation. But one of the big things that the board really thought about was sustainability. And part of their moving towards that has been to vote in a fund balance policy with the library. And that really influenced how we came to our budget that we presented, because we have been sort of drawing down the fund balance of the library that the library had as a way of supporting existing services at the library. And so we kind of came into our original discussions with Charlene and Jeff, hoping to take a pretty drastic reduction in fund balance. And Jeff actually had come to us with his own sort of adjustments, and we really came to a good place, we think. I guess last year we had been at 75,000, and that's dropped down to 55,000 in our fund balance. And so we are slowly trying to reduce using that for our operating costs and think of ways that we can balance that out going forward. So that's sort of the basis of where the board and I, the finance committee, the board and I came together to look at our budget. And going down from sort of starting at the top with personnel, obviously the loss of Cheryl Matthews was a really sad loss this year, and she's greatly missed in the community and at the library. But she was a very senior member, and we were able to recoup some salary funds from her salary. And sort of we've budgeted for a starting level children's librarian. And so we had funds that were then available to us to balance out some of the lagging hourly salaries of our part-time staff. And so if you look at our staffing budget, there's a fair amount of decrease in the permanent part-time staff, the permanent full-time staff, but that's balanced by an increase in the part-time staff in order to get their hourly salaries on a competitive basis, not extravagant in any ways. The clerks will be brought up to minimum wage, and the other more senior people will be comparable to other libraries in Westchester County. So those are the differences in personnel. Personnel benefits will depend on the person that we hire for the children's librarian position, because it will depend on whether or not it's a single or married person, and that will adjust that number. And that's an unknown until we hire someone. Those are really the major changes in this budget. The other ones, there's some increases for the costs of doing Easy Pass and Passport services, so that we have to add additional postage costs, some materials costs for things like photography paper and for passport photos. But the thing that's really great about that is we're actually moving we've really put a plus on our revenue side of things with the new services that we've been offering. So I had not really presented the revenue side of the library's budget before, but I wanted to point out that we were budgeted for last year $19,000 non-levy revenues, which a lot of that has to do with room rentals. It has to do with the passports. It has to do with Easy Pass sales. And we're already at that as of the end of February. Obviously, times have changed, and that where we might have gained a lot of revenue or some revenue for the end of the year, that's probably not going to happen because we're not doing Easy Pass, we're not doing room rentals. All of that has come to a grinding halt. We'll see how that goes on into the future. So ultimately, the other addition was in books, the book line. We've increased basically to account for the expenses in ebooks and e-audiobooks. They're much more expensive for us to supply because on a per book basis, they tend to be 2 to 3 times more than a paper book would be. And that's because you're borrowing them. Every publisher has different contracts with Overdrive, our platform that we use to share the books. And so they're accounting for one copy will go out multiple times. It's not our preferred. As librarians, we would rather have, much more access, easier access to ebooks. And especially right now, that's all we're offering throughout the whole system. They've shut down all materials lending because of the COVID crisis. But we have in our, I love that Charlene used the word aspirational budget, because that's really what this was. And it was meant to serve as responding to what we're seeing in the community. And so the reason why we bumped up the book budget was because our ebook circulation is from last year to this year annually, it's about 31% up. There's about a 31% increase in the circulation of ebooks. And so we're really trying to pay attention to that, pay attention to what the patrons in Dobbs Ferry want as far as the services that we're offering. And that was where that came from. Overall, the library budget increases 3.32%. And a fair part of that is the increase in the real property tax levy for the library. And that was Jeff and Charlene and I and the finance committee were looking at that as a way to begin to take down that kind of artificial lift from using the fund balance. I hope I've explained that pretty well. Questions?
So when I see the total estimated non-levy revenues proposed $30,000, that would encompasses the Easy Pass sales and the passport fees, correct?
Yes, and room rentals. What else is in there? There's a small, we have a small fund that comes from the state for the library. It's library support. It's called LLSA. I could not begin to tell you what that stands for right off the top of my head. But it's a local library fund through the state. But the majority of those funds were from not just Easy Pass, passports, and room rentals, but also Jeff had managed to work the library budget and where it was being kept financially so that we had a very nice interest income from that as well. That's kind of, Jeff, you could speak to that more than I could, but that's likely to change, obviously, given.
Yeah, that's the rates were basically cut to zero by the Fed a week or so ago. So
Yeah.
that may
So-
go up
so-
at some point, but as of right now, it's pretty much zero.
Before COVID and all that stuff going on now, how was the Easy Pass and passports out? Was that something that was like successful and the library is going to continue it going forward?
Totally. Passports we made over the Christmas break. I think we brought in over $2,500 from, we've been so busy doing passport processing. And the community has really, really loved having a place where they can go, they can make an appointment to come in. And the staff that's, for the most part, I would say the staff that's doing it are really, really helpful and not rushed in the way that sometimes the post office staff has to be because they're just limited.
I think that's it. The post office is so, people dread going to the post office for that I think that's, they see that the library is a great opportunity for that. So that's
Yeah,
great.
and we're trained in, we are all about customer service. So, and our response has been really, really good. We have, I will admit, we've had a couple of issues with photographs being rejected. That has not been as fun for people, but we try to be very customer related and we'll retake pictures if they need to. It's not a huge loss for us if we have to redo one picture. And I think for the customer service, customer relations, it's a big plus. They trust us.
Yes. Okay, any other questions?
I'd just like to thank Elizabeth and the library board for working so hard with the village to come to something that was workable and manageable, and for working harder with the Friends to get more resources and funds in from there. And I believe that the Friends donated money for some ebooks during this library closure. So I
Yeah,
think
it's
resources we
been-
have that are outside the village for the library, the better the library will be for everyone. So I appreciate the efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. This was a really good budget year, I think, for both the finance committee and working with Charlene and Jeff. It really was, I felt like we were all working in the same lane, and it felt really.
I should say that too, that the library board was very thankful and appreciative of Charlene and Jeff and their meetings. And they were really productive and respectful and all those good things that I'm not thinking of right now. I'm tired.
It was a pleasure working with him. I mean, Elizabeth, thank you. I think we were on the same page and we were a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I think DPW is next.
You're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So overall, our budget was a $40,048.02 increase. It's 1.14% more than last year. The reason for that, because we did ask for things in our budget this year, but the reason for that is because last year we asked for some equipment that we purchased and it didn't get pulled over into this year. And we were able, due to the sewer fund, take out our whole sanitary sewer fund. Right, Jeff?
Yep, correct.
Okay, I was just making sure I said that right. And so the things that we asked for this year, pending the Teamsters contract, it was a 2.25% tentative contractual raises, which was $89,884.
All right, wait,
And
can I just stop you there for a second? And I
Yeah.
should have mentioned this at the start. This budget, that the requests include an estimate of, the salary increases that potentially could happen. This is true for all the departments. The actual amount that people will be paid until the contracts are resolved is going to be the same as the current budget.
And let
But
me
we-
add to that, none of the contracts have been settled yet. Everything is up in the air. This is a new world.
Yes. But that's
And
what
we
I put
do,
my
we
budget.
do include an estimated amount in the presented budget for salary increases. They're an estimate.
And that
Yes.
goes for all departments, so it can be just
Sure.
glossed over when you're up.
Sorry, John, you're up.
Sorry. The other increase, which was a big one, it's to replace 2 chassis on 2 pickup trucks that we have. And you'll see that in the street maintenance section under the equipment line. It's an increase of $100,000. And then the last was an increase of $20,000 to the refuse section of our budget, which we wanted to make a special account just for sustainability because we've been doing a lot of sustainability initiatives. So we wanted to make that its own. It shouldn't be, just thrown in with garbage, literally. So we wanted to make that its own line.
That's it, right?
Does anybody have any
Obviously,
questions?
any capital, again, we reiterate, if we're not doing anything right away with the capital.
Yeah, that's why I didn't mention it, but most of the equipment that we wanted to put in for was all capital. We have a lot of aging equipment that we can't get parts for, and it's just, we're gonna have to do something with that, but it's not a discussion for right now.
Yeah, and we could decide later because obviously the bonding things, if it's a necessity, is much easier now, especially since it has, there's no interest really. But let's go on. Thank you, Jen.
I just want to point out that the DPW also gave us an extensive list of all the traffic mitigations and pedestrian safety measures that you have taken. So thank you for all that. And do we have the same amount of money budgeted for that for this year, or is that like a one-off?
No, same amount of money. We didn't change that.
Nope.
We carried that over. I'm glad you caught that, Donna.
And well, now that we're on it, Donna, we did, Tom Abenanti was very generous in getting us money from the state, but I don't know, it's not gotten yet.
If we'll get it now,
What?
or if we'll even get it now.
I truthfully, I don't think we will. Because the governor's already, the county executive stated in his call today that the governor, because of COVID-19, has cut municipalities deeply. And obviously, any grants are going to be difficult.
Jen, this is Larry. 2 things. Thank you for the narrative that you gave us, the written piece as part of the original package. This is very helpful. The second is to what extent does the truck body work, that $100,000, need to be done immediately, or is that something that can be postponed to do it later in the year during the plow season, or before the plow season, I should say?
I think before the plow season is fine. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about it going through another winter. So I think if we have to put that off, it will become an emergency in the winter, but right now we're okay.
Thank you.
Does this include all our Christmas wreaths and flags and lights and all that fun stuff?
Yep.
Yes, and banners. We're looking at new banners that we want to do for different holidays and right, Stephen?
Yes, we
Listen,
are.
I was going,
Does that
I was
include,
going-
the Memorial Day parade? I need something for
Yeah,
the Memorial Day parade.
want.
On
Well,
that
we-
point, we need to get more people on beautification committee because it's not really fair that Jen and Steve spend so much time doing that. I mean, it's great, they're doing a great job and I applaud you all. Phenomenal work along with Mara. You've done great stuff. But it would really be good if we can get more people on that beautification committee so our DPW people can do DPW other work that's probably needed.
Yeah, but I must add that, the planning and the teamwork that we do, just for the record, it doesn't really, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, we very selective and very smart about how we invest our time. We do continue to try to encourage residents to join us. We recently have a couple of people that have actually signed up, but the work that we have done actually is much faster, more efficient, and things just happen to get done. So I know that we want to encourage more residents to participate, but these guys, kudos to them because they have been a great help to the beautification team.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Mara.
I agree also.
Does it help that we've had a few people or corporations do adopt the park? That helped decrease
Yeah.
any expenses at all?
A couple of places. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know we had Walgrove, a group of people in the Walgrove area want to adopt the Walgrove Island, and they have such a great plan for over there.
Yes.
It's gonna look so nice, and it's gonna help us. It's gonna take a lot of work away from us. The plan that they have over there, it's beautiful. And
And we
some
got
places
moms.
down at the
The
waterfront.
river, right?
Right.
Yeah, Mom's Organic Market wants to adopt an area. They haven't decided what area yet, but they're very interested because they're the market that's coming into Rivertown Square. So they want to get involved in the village, which is great.
If there's, can you hear me? If there's some
Yes.
list of things that people can do specifically rather than a call to beautification committee members, if there's a list of things that people who want to volunteer can do that help you guys to help offset costs, then feel free to send that to me and I'll get the nominating committee on it too.
Okay, yeah, we could definitely do that.
All right, any more questions? Okay, I think Liz, you're on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There's two budgets, the one for the registrar and one for the village clerk. Both have no increase, with the exception of village clerk for the whatever cost of living increase that may or may not, get approved or whatever amount that's going to be. Otherwise, everything's the same.
Okay, so I mean, Liz's budget's pretty basic. Anybody have any questions for her? All right, Ed.
Real
Oh,
fast. If
yep.
there's anything that we try to do that's more digital than before in terms of village clerk stuff, is that in the village clerk budget or would that be a different budget?
I mean, as far as, I don't know what you're referring to as exactly as far as what clerk stuff. I mean, if you mean the audio video,
Christy, I think that I can answer that. Excuse me, Elizabeth. The audio visual, Jen is taking care of that. We had money in the budget for that for this year. Actually, it's money from Cablevision. So we have the money for that. Jen was looking into it with Alyssa, and they're going to do it because that money is earmarked for that in any case. Elisa is also taking a survey as to what our needs would be. And after she finishes that, then we'll decide on her wish list and what we can now afford. So we had great hopes. Hopefully we can do it in the future.
Thank you, guys.
And also to that, Christy, my part-time person has been scanning all of the board packages and putting it in on the tower. So it's just a matter of Alyssa and Liz working out where they're going to put it now so that people can just view it without sending out those packets and people having to come into the village to look at plans. So that's
That's the
what's
kind of stuff
happening.
we're talking about, is like the scanning and then storage of the scans if it's digital and the cloud. And I
That
didn't
is
know if
happening.
I didn't know if that's part of a different budget, like admin or what.
We've been taking care of it in the building department. So for the past couple of months, all of those board packets have been digitized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we need to have either Liz Draper or Elizabeth on there, or are they done? Did they disappear?
I think they would find this fascinating to watch.
Once you're done, you're done.
Yeah, once you're done, you can go
You guys
if
can
you
go.
want.
We can't
Get
hear
your
you.
evening
Elizabeth.
back. Okay, I think Ed, you're on.
All right, mine's just as simple as Liz's. I have no increases from last year other than the potential contractual raise and step increases for my two assistants. We are continue to operate in the black. Last year, I think we're close to 100,000 in the black. I assume that next year is going to be that or more, because I'm looking at some big permit fees coming in from Masters for one this year, and Mercy, I believe, and whatever happens down at Rivertown Square. So not asking for anything new and still bringing money in. Any questions?
Where do we see how much money you've brought in? What page would that be?
Last
Hold on
year,
a second.
I had Pat ran a report. I don't know if that's in your report. We brought in $501,639.
Much, Ed? Can you say that again?
501,000 and change.
I thought you said, okay. So has the code enforcement officer that we hired last year been helpful and
Oh, very much so. He's been catching a lot of people doing illegal work. He's been, picking up things in the downtown that are being taken care of, like awnings and those deteriorated sidewalk access doors, where he's on a lot of that.
I would like to make a statement about the building department. It seems that Ed has chosen people with different skills, construction skills, and works like a charm. I mean, they have been able to do things with the Embassy Center and oversee the Embassy Center that I'm really amazed at. Whatever you did, Ed, with that, it's good. The third person is a really good pinch hitter for both of them and constantly comes in with stories about catching people who are building illegally. It's great. and he stops them. It's not a matter of violation. It's a matter of that they have to get the permits, and that is a safety concern. So it's a very good job that they're doing.
Are we gonna see a reality show like North Main Woods Law? It's gonna be Dobbs Ferry Code Enforcement Law.
Not that glamorous, but maybe we could spice it up a bit.
Have you watched North Main Woods Law?
No,
It's
have
not glamorous.
I don't see much TV.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we can move on to the fire department.
Okay, good evening. Again, I think our budget, we haven't done anything, added on anything to this year's budget. We moved a few things around, but we're coming in the same as last year. The only thing we had that was major was a 10-year-old car that we were looking to, but we'll nurse it along the best that we can. Otherwise, our problem is unfunded mandates that we have to go along with. Otherwise, we could cut it some more, but we're forced by the state and the federal government to do what we have to do to replace equipment and stuff. And Jeff and Charlene have been great with doing that and spreading it out so we don't get hit all at once. So we can come in with a budget that's almost, I think, Jeff, about the same as last year, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Overall.
well, the chief has been working as the other chiefs with their own phone for years and years. And for this year, we finally got them phones, village phones. And I believe that they were very inexpensive. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, because they're first responders.
Yeah, the phone itself was, part of the plan.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chief. Go ahead.
No, and again, like I said, if the problem we have is these unfunded mandates, which we have to provide for, we can't use this stuff when it's outdated in order to protect the village, any lawsuits or any stuff like that. And we came in at the same amount, so no increase for us. I mean, if it'll help you out, believe me, I don't sound like a savior here, but you can keep whatever you give me. I certainly would do it without getting paid anything, so it doesn't matter to me. So if that'll help you out, you can keep mine.
That's very generous of you, but you're entitled to it. You earn it.
Well, again, Mayor, thank you, but I would do it without getting compensated, you know that. So, I mean, if it'll help out, then we can do what we do. It's, I've been here 45 years. It's not a big problem.
You guys do enough already, so we appreciate it. So, no, you're gonna get what you get.
All right, thank
How
you.
are you guys doing with personal protection equipment? Are you guys okay?
We're holding our own. We have some stuff that we, believe it or not, we had suits and stuff that we had on in our case. We are getting some N95 masks that we're using. We limited our response. We're keeping the guys staging away from any alarms. Billy Oz, Chief Osborne or Chief Gardner or myself are checking out these alarms. We're staging these guys away. If we don't need them, I don't want them. We've had a couple of incidents where we came into near contact with people and we don't want to put everybody down. So the guys are coming out. We're doing online training, which thanks to Chief Gardner set that up for the guys so they can continue to train online. And it's been very helpful for us.
Should we be budgeting in the latter half of this year to replace that equipment? To the extent that you're consuming some of it between now and then, and prices, I guess, have gone up a lot?
No, Larry, we can get some stuff through the county, which we were trying to stockpile now, and we can just keep it on hand. So they've been pretty good about getting us some equipment. So I think we're all right.
Well, if that changes, you should absolutely put your hand up. So
Not a
that we
problem.
know.
Any other
Trustee,
questions?
you're right. Larry, you're absolutely right. And we would find the money for that no matter what. This money right now, things are going to have to be changed, sort of switched around a little bit. And Jeff, we've talked about it a number of times. And if the fire department needs something, they get it. As with
Right,
police or
and-
first responders.
And like the chief said, this initial request does include money for a vehicle. So, that's a lot of PPE if we can find it anywhere. So, you know what I mean? If we have to go that route.
Definitely.
Okay, are we all set? No more questions?
I'm good.
All right.
I mean,
Rick,
again,
you're up.
reassure anybody that we're out there. We're responding to the calls. The guys are coming out. They're not holding back. It's sometimes you got to protect them from themselves, and that's what we're trying to do. But we're out there answering the calls. Anybody needs us, we're there.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
How's everybody doing tonight? Everyone can hear me?
Hanging in there.
We hear you.
Good. So as you know, I have, or the police department, we have 5 different lines. Maybe I'll start with the least complicated jail budget line. On account 3150, basically I've kept that line flat from last year. There was no changes in that line. It's pretty simple. It just covers a matron as needed. And certainly with the current situation and with the bail reform laws, some of the arrests, they certainly have slowed up that we're bringing people in. But basically the 3150 jail line stays the same. It is flat. Any questions in regards to that before I bounce to the next budget line? All right, so for on-street parking, that is account 3320. Basically on-street and public transportation, I do get an overlap with one of my employees that's his salary is covered across both. And like Jeff and Charlene mentioned, this is kind of aspirational, just kind of with the just numbers, just so we could see something on paper. But essentially, the salaries are covered for the most part within 3320. As far as some of the per diems, looking as far as like potential waterfront guards, if things don't change, just it pointed out that the minimum wage changes, but for the most part, our guards are above that at $15 an hour for both waterfront and meter collector. That's been flat. And I kind of worked into what potentially the waterfront guards would make if and their coverage. But again, where we are with the virus situation. So that may be a moot point anyway, as we come into the summer. But usually our guards would begin the last weekend of May, and then runs to Labor Day for the weekends, just to kind of help out. Again, at the time, there was a slight increase in that overtime line to cover John Salvi and Rahoffer's position, because they helped backfill during the Ferry Festa and the 4th of July. So in keeping with their incremental steps, I just wanted to make sure that there was coverage in that. And then as far as the contractual expenses, again, those stay static. We did have one change under the 420 telephone line. With the new construction at 75 Main, there was a reshuffling of parking meters on Chestnut between Palisade and Main Street. A loading zone was created, and then there was some adjustments with crosswalks going in. So we wound up losing a parking space. So although you may see 26 one-space parking meter monthly fees, we're actually at 25 now. So there would be an adjustment for Jeff once we kind of get closer to the final product. One thing we had looked at before this had all begun was going to pay by phone, a parking app. And so one thing I thought as a possibility of maybe saving some money for the village, if we get to the point where we identify a vendor, and we have spoken to a few, was possibly maybe transitioning some of the municipal lots. So instead of using the kiosk, which are roughly $40 a month in Wi-Fi fees, whether we convert them to just using a pay by parking app as an idea, as a way to eliminate some of these Wi-Fi fees, to maybe generate some more interest in parking, and again, to save some money for the village. And then piggybacking off of that, I'd love to discuss maybe at length later on, either looking at some zone pay by parking app, maybe in the areas closest to the train station for the commuters, where for those 12-hour parking meters that we have, maybe we convert those to a possibly pay by phone app as well, which again would eliminate some of the Wi-Fi fees, since, I think a lot of commuters are potentially accustomed to using these parking apps, and it might be easier for them. We can discuss that later on, but those are just some thoughts, because the Wi-Fi fees do, it's a lot of currency that's going out in regards to revenue for the village.
Right, Rick, can I just jump in very
Please, go
quickly
ahead.
on that? Beyond that, there's credit card fees that get taken out on every credit card transaction on those parking meters or on the kiosks. And it sounds like the app would help reduce that.
Because wouldn't they have a fee in the app for every time you use it through
The fees in the app are charged to the user to start with on one level, and then the credit card fees are actually, for the vendor that we've been talking to, or one of the vendors we've been talking to, is actually, the credit card fee is actually lower than what we're getting charged for the current meters that are set up. So it would generate a little more revenue, a little more savings that way. And then we would, like Rick said, we would get rid of the wireless fees for a number of meters that are out there.
That sounds like a win-win for.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, so that was something I thought that, we could talk at length, maybe at another time, or, see what potentially, I'm open to any and all ideas for the village, that if it makes it easier, then so be it. Otherwise, outside of that, the on-street parking is, really just would be potential salaries. But like Jeff said, we got to see what the budget year brings. But there is no real changes in that line at all. For public transportation, like I said, half of you'll see one of the salaries is split in half. That's Frank, who between the community service worker and bus driver, his salary is cut across both lines. And it is essentially the 5630 budget line. Everything is pretty much wrapped into salary. And again, the increase was based off of a possible percentage increase that is yet to be determined, depending where we're at. I had no other major changes in that line. And then the sub accounts, material supplies, vehicle equipment maintenance, that basically also stays static on that as well. If you have any additional questions for that, I'll try to answer them for you.
I just want to, maybe, Chief, you can give a rundown on what's happening in your department right now. I mean, aside from the chief looking at various ways of saving money, he's now really down and dirty doing a job. And I think he should give you a briefing on what is happening with his department at this point, and the manning of officers, considering that there have been some positive results of tests?
Yes, certainly, the COVID-19 has been,
Before you do, Chief, just don't mention any office particular names or anything of that nature.
affirmative.
Yeah, thank you, Vince.
It's been a challenge, as Charlene mentioned. We do have one positive at this point in time. So my concern is that, we're not sure where this is going to go. And obviously, as it's continuously evolving, we're trying to stay ahead of any changes. So, we initially had cut out all non-essential personnel to minimize their potential exposure. And so that included our parking enforcement, my assistants, and some of the meter collectors, obviously guards for the school district have been home. And, we looked into trying to do a modified shift to try to, again, keep officers home. But as we've had some secondary exposures and we're waiting for testing to come back, we have 7 more officers that are awaiting tests at this point. So they were tested Sunday, and I think 2 more were today. They've been pretty quick coming back with the results. So I'm hoping tomorrow at the earliest could be very telling where we're at. Depending on those results, I'm going to talk with the PBA and see if we may have to potentially institute like 12-hour shifts and really try to modify guys in a temporary setting just to make it easier to staff. So we provide the 24-hour coverage.
Chief, from what our conversation was, suffice it to say that you do have it covered and we will be served by the police department adequately.
Oh, absolutely. We're still in the fight. We're doing well. Guys are, guys are positive, upbeat. We'll get through this. I'm not worried about that. It's just, just making sure we get the, those holes in the schedule filled, which we are doing. And we're keeping track of all that time.
Thank you.
So if these next tests come back positive, that's going to put more people out and maybe they expose more people. Like, what's the minimum active duty police officers you need to cover the 24-hour?
3 officers. That's the minimum staffing that we have.
So you need 6 per day then? If you did
It would be 9. So it would be day tour 3 through to 11/3 and then the midnight 3. If we were to switch to a 12-hour tour, then we're looking at 6. So I'm looking at a couple different models. New York State Police and Irvington also runs a 12-hour. So I'm looking at their schedules to see what potential will work. And I'll keep you advised though. We feel good, so I'm ever the optimist.
What are do you guys have enough personal equipment when you're going into homes and stuff now?
We do, we do have it strictly inventoried and it is secured. All the vehicles are equipped and the guys do have some. We have had to modify, our response and how we do things, but we do have the equipment, and like Fire Chief Marin stated, we are contacting through EOC through the county for additional equipment as necessary.
Chief, as all of us, I think, just agreed with the fire department, if your officers or staff need more money to get the right personal equipment, I think the board would be glad to do it. I do have one line item, and I don't know if I missed your talking about it, that I wanted to talk about on the budget. And that's 31-2200, the police equipment that's going to $140,400 from, I guess it was 49 last year. Do you know what that is off the top of your head?
Yeah, which sub account was that? We're looking at 3120.
200.
So yeah, so that's the equipment. So we had a couple And there's some things we can hold off on. We're looking for, at the time when this was first created, trying to make sure that we have an easy turnover of equipment. So as it phases out, to avoid a potential year where suddenly we have to ask for additional, whether it was vehicles. So in this case, part of this is that we were initially was 2 vehicles. That certainly at this point is a different story, but when this was prepared, I was looking for 2 vehicles. The other is part of the issue is the in-car camera dashes, the dash camera video system that we have for the cars. Those are phasing out. So part of this equipment line was to upgrade, again, at the time when this was prepared, I was looking to change out 2 of the in-car video and camera systems that we have, because those are now at this point, if they malfunction, they will be out of service and unusable. So with the new discovery laws, that was part of the issue. And then the other thing was again, tasers. Those also phase out, although ours currently work. So, but some of them have reached end of life. So if they break, they're out of service. And our main server that controls the in-car video dash, that is also reaching end of life. That would require at some point a replacement. So that's unique. And then I do have 5 vests. Officers need new vests. Again, Charlie was talking with the grants. That's something through DOJ. So we would, in April, make the application that we would be anticipating replacing 5 vests. And then as the officer's vest this year reaches their end, we would replace them. So that's something that we normally put in. The other things, like I said, the vehicles, our fleet, we can still run. So I'm not concerned, because I know that there are some concerns about finances. So we can worry about that later. Not a problem.
Well, I assume that you and Charlene and Jeff can prioritize that. And obviously something like vests or tasers that are, directly related to the safety of your officers and the public need to be purchased. We need to find the money for that, no matter what.
I just want to expand a little bit on what Rick was saying. It's been a while since equipment purchases have been in this budget. With the tax cap that's been in place.
We're not hearing you so well, Jeff.
What's that?
We can't really hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me? How's this better? Hello?
Try again.
Is this better?
Not really.
Mute and unmute.
It's hard to lip read through your beard.
Is that better?
No.
I mean, we can understand him. He can keep going.
So basically, equipment in the police line had been removed pretty much completely. And what we're attempting to do on some of this equipment is buy a couple a year and kind of rotate on a 5-year schedule, so that at the end of life, instead of having 10 of them buy 2 at a time, and then rotate that schedule going forward. And, the vehicles, we talked over the past few years about trying to sell them when they have some value still. Obviously, at this point, we can address those later on.
Right, that's what Jeff and I were discussing, trying to create a 5-year life cycle for some of these bigger items that we have, just to minimize costs, where one year you might have a lot of things go down. We just kind of, like Jeff said, we could get some value for some of the equipment and, you know, kind of ease through these budgets with, you know, whether it be cars or it's, you know, like a server for the cameras, you know, tasers, et cetera. But like I said, that's what we're kind of working on for you.
You've already started doing that though, haven't you?
Yep. Was just a potential number. You know, we had we have a police officer right now in the academy, so there was some changes in the salaries as far as that is concerned.
That was my only question in 3120, just that one line.
Okay. Well, since we're on 3120, anything? Oh, what do we had? Let's see, what do I have here? We wound up, I think I had mentioned it for the overtime, for like some of the reimbursable overtime. We did create a staggered schedule as far as, you know, hourly rates for when Con Ed and Suez are hiring officers off duty. So that was something that was changed to kind of reflect where the contract currently is. And I think what was it? What do we invoice? That was the one thing too with last year's overtime line. We had a lot of Con Ed and Suez overtime that really hit our overtime line, but a lot of it was reimbursed back to the village. So even though it looks like we may have gone into the negative, that was all recouped through all the invoices billing. That's somewhere here. Everything else, so as far as the lines, those are all, the bulk of that budget is just salary. And, you know, once we finalize the, you know, once the PBA settles and we have a number, you'll be able to really fine tune that line itself. I think that was all my lines. Is that everything?
They're good.
We're good. Any other questions? Did that help you with?
Oh, thank you, Chief.
All right, Kendra.
Kendra? Unmute yourself.
That's what I was trying to do. Good evening.
Before you start, I just want to tell everyone what she and Abby Canet are doing with her staff and with Greenberg. They're feeding all the seniors, basically. It's amazing what they're doing. She right now is quarantined because of me, but but she's on the phone and she is directing traffic. So Kendra, go ahead.
So two of my biggest increases actually come from the pool and the camp, which I guess are kind of up in the air right now. Because I'm not really sure what's going to happen with it. The camp went up a little bit because of the rise in minimum wage, and then also because of some of the programs that we're looking to add to it. And then obviously the pool, that went up because of the new staffing costs. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say about it, but
Okay, yeah, and the thing, the
pretty cut and dry.
the thing to remember with the camp and the pool, if by chance they're not open, you know, the expense and the revenue both would go down to zero. So it'd be an offset.
Very, very quickly, can you describe the new programs for the camp?
We added some new trips this year. And we brought in some additional like entertainment, like water slides and stuff like that. Yeah.
Basically, Larry, you're counting on the pool and the Embassy Center to provide the entertainment, the new entertainment. There've been a whole bunch of programs, and Kendra has a habit of just thinking about new programs and putting them in, and they always work.
Thank you.
Did we factor in, although it's probably not going to happen this year because of the situation, a rental for the Embassy Center for events and stuff?
We haven't come up with that just yet. The Rec Commission has been talking about it. We just haven't kind of finalized anything. But it is on our list of things to do.
There's
This is
no
Michael.
numbers budgeted in there for it.
There are no numbers budgeted in there currently.
So that's only a good thing.
There is a small amount for the Embassy Center programming.
Programming wise, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
A lot of that we use, that money we use for the after school program that we run up at Springhurst.
Oh, I'm talking on the revenue side. There is a little
okay.
bit of money in the budget for, like you were asking, renting the room and whatnot.
Gotcha, sorry.
It's not a lot, but
Again, I know that this is not, this may be delayed, but is there anything or any plan for equipment regarding Gould Park Playground? So on page 3 in your schedule 2, there's nothing there. Does that fall somewhere else?
There's $100,000 that was allocated out of the recreation fund. So that's where that money is coming from. And then we also had the grant money that we received from the county, which was $150,000. And then the fundraising group is still pretty busy. So hopefully they raise some additional funds for it.
right.
Do you know where they are? Do you know what that
Yes,
total amounts
I can
to?
tell you. I can tell you where they are. They're in the capital fund for now. They're not in the operating fund.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if that grant or what is at risk of, like, do we already have it, or is that something that could go away because of COVID-19?
It can go away.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
We don't know. I mean, the answer really is we don't know, because that's a CDBG fund. And obviously, we don't know what the feds are going to do with it. And it goes through the state, so.
Good to know.
Kendra, this is like a little bit off budget topic, but what's the Rec Commission doing with the programs that were not programs, the rentals for Waterfront Park in April? Are those still going forward, or are you just taking them case by case now? I feel like one of them was 150 people.
We're canceling those. Especially since like school will probably still be out of session. We don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, Virginia canceled through the end of the year today.
Oh yeah. That's where we don't know what they're going to do at schools. We don't know about camp. So I guess we'll wait and find out.
What happens to graduation?
I don't know.
Do we have a backup plan if the school's closed for the summer? Yeah.
We don't currently, but it's definitely something we should start looking at just in case and kind of start planning.
It was talked about at the C's call, and no decision was made, and everybody delayed it for at least a week till we get used to the present craziness.
Okay, any more questions? All right, thanks, Kendra.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kendra.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk really briefly about the justice budget. I was contacted by Justice Kingsburg that he can't attend this tonight. you looking at their budget, the bulk of the increase would be projected salaries, the projected increase on salaries. They've asked for an increase to their steno translation line because they've been, the budget's fallen short the last couple of years. But I think the big ask that they have in this is they've budgeted $26,000 in part-time personal services, looking to see if they can get a court guard for when court's in session.
So do the police only do that when there's criminal court or criminals in the courtroom? And they're court outside, outside of those times?
Rick, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, Nicole, say that again. You came in a little broken.
Sorry, I said, are they asking for a CSO because the police only appear when there's criminal court or criminals in the courtroom?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know we looked at this last year, Chief, so maybe you can refresh our memory as to what our neighboring villages do, Hastings or Irvington. I don't remember who we talked to, but somebody.
Many of them actually do have someone there, or they have like some kind of shield and a detector. We have neither. So the request really is legitimate because otherwise we would be using police officers and taking them off duty. And now that that you don't have, we have the age issue, we don't need as many officers up there. And I think it's better use of the police officers to be on the street rather than be in the courtroom, and security guards are just cheaper.
So how often would the CSO be in court? Would it be every time they're in session?
We gave them an amount of money, and it was $26,000, and they said that that was sufficient to cover their needs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, it's something that we
Yeah.
should have, so.
Yeah, it's
I think it's a legitimate request.
I agree. I just wanted to flush it out more so we have an understanding of what we're doing since it's new.
Okay, okay, so the admin or the actually really treasurer and admin are kind of one discussion. Most of the budgets have stayed the same, other than the increments on payroll. Benefits have the cost of benefits are up about 200 and I think it was 260,000 over last year. The cost of retirement system is creeped up a little bit, and we conservatively estimate double-digit increases for health insurance. Let's see. Overall, give me 1 second. Overall, general government support, which is, admin, treasurer, et cetera, is down $137,000 from last year. And that comes in the form of a reduction to the contingency and a reduction to the judgments and claims budget lines. I see Charlene's trying to get it.
Yeah, I'll get it. Okay. With the treasurers and the administration, there's been one change in the budget. We have added a position. Well, we haven't added a position. What we're doing is in finance, we're changing the name of the position for Megan's position. So she will become truly a member of the finance. And under administration, there is an administrative secretary, whatever they call it, it doesn't really matter. It would be the administrative assistant, actually. And that would be the position that Elisa would have. I believe that she has, now just close your ears because you're going to say, just don't listen to this. She's been great.
Disappear.
Hmm? She
I
has
told her
been
to disappear.
absolutely terrific. Between her, it's Jen and the other Jen, because so for one reason she's named Jen here too. So it's the two Jens, which have been terrific. And as you can see, they've gotten out everything, all the newsletters, all the information. So at this point, I would request of you that you put that position in. I think she is an asset to the village. She's certainly an asset to the building and all the staff workers. I mean, we work as a team, and she is a real team person. You can depend on her. So that's my request. That's a big request, but it's my request.
Well, I certainly think it's a great suggestion and it's a great idea. I know I couldn't do it without Elisa and her help, so I'm all for it 100%. I mean, I see she disappeared. I don't see her, but she.
Yeah, well, I think because
she's great, and you know, during this time of crisis, she's been amazing. So I certainly think, even when I'm not in a crisis, it would be great to have her, and we'd be more efficient and better use of our time with her in that position. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, she has so stepped up, the past couple of weeks. It's been amazing. She's been good all along, and the way that she was able to jump in so quickly and get up to speed so quickly. She's a huge asset. And I think Christy had been asking for somebody to do communications for the longest time, and it's working out. I think it's working out really great.
Well, we were talking, and I said, well, how do you like it so far? This is at the beginning of everything. And I said, she said, well, I really want to learn. I want to learn how to, and I said, well, were you expecting a pandemic? I guess she hasn't, but she has, Donna said, she stepped up to it. So it was great.
So what's Megan's new title then? She's the accounts payable clerk or the payroll clerk?
I think she would be deputy treasurer. We have to figure that out with
I mean, in the budget as it is now, Jeff, what is it?
Yeah, she's accounts payable in the budget right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you guys were going to suggest hazardous pay for Vinny, for his first couple of months as mayor, and how much.
Oh man, does he deserve it?
We vote a raise for the mayor, or a temporary bonus for the mayor, or what?
I think it's hazard pay.
Especially if he gets sick.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure working with you, Vinny, and actually all of you. Thank you.
Well, I can't say enough about what you've done. You've actually sacrificed your health for this, and please stop.
My height. So, thank you.
Okay.
I think Donna's trying to talk. Donna.
You're on mute still. Still on mute.
Lisa, you need to come back so you can unmute Donna.
While we're waiting for Donna, can I ask about the two professional consultant lines, which seem to have gone up substantially in terms of what those
Can you hear me
expenditures
now?
are for? Oh yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, no, I've lost my video. I don't know what happened, but anyway, at least you got my sound, so that's good.
We see you, Donna.
I can't see you, so.
Go ahead, Larry.
Just the two lines, the professional consultants are up significantly. Just if you could explain what that's for, and why the increase.
So professional consultants are, let me see.
1325, 457. And then 1440, 457. If I'm carrying the lines.
Go ahead.
If I'm carrying the lines across, right?
Those budget lines are for actually a little bit of the unforeseen instances. We need a third party contractor or an engineering or whatnot. So those are estimated a little bit on the high side. But in this budget, it's probably not a bad thing to have a couple of things that are a little on the higher side.
Well, I don't disagree. I was just curious what they were. So thank you. That explains it.
Yep.
And Jeff, our fiscal year ends May 30th.
May 31st. Yep.
Okay, so we're clearly going to lose a lot of revenue in the next couple of months, this month and the rest of that fiscal year. So how are we going to come out this year for that?
I actually need to get a little bit closer to year end, but we were trending really pretty decently up to this point.
But is there like extra money somewhere that's going to get us through? Like, 'cause I know we get a lot of revenue from the hotel and sales tax, but maybe people are taking out a lot, so they're getting sales tax.
So yeah, there are in the current budget, there are, there is some areas that will come in under budget on the expense side and, over budget on the revenue side. So yeah.
You're on mute, Vinny.
Yes. So is that it? Any other questions or comments?
No. I want to thank Charlene and Jeff for trucking through this meeting despite both of them being so under the weather.
Most definitely.
Yeah, you guys have been great. Thank you.
A pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely.
Thank you.